But here's the issue. You can't have it both ways. You can't mix the old covenant with the new covenant. It doesn't make you safe. Matthew 5 says that Jesus has fulfilled the law so that we have no requirement on us except to learn the law of love. And the law of love just says nobody on earth is safe from a blessing. Everybody out there is fair game to practice love on. So we're practicing love on everybody, on our family, on our friends, on our enemies, on difficult people. No one's safe from being loved. And sometimes the more difficult the relationship, the more love you get to give, and the more love God gives you. And so in a weird way, difficult people help you to grow in love way more quickly than your friends. Because we love our friends, we love hanging out and everything else, but difficult people who get right in your face, they are a shortcut into something marvelous. This is how the New Testament teaches us to be. It teaches us the majesty and the sovereignty of God in incredible ways so that we realize I'm getting opportunities all the time to prove that I'm in love with Jesus. Romans 8:2 says that the law of the Spirit of life that is in Christ Jesus has set us free from the law of sin and death. The law of the Spirit of life is the law of love. The fact that God absolutely loves you and is completely determined to set you free. When God swears to us by his name and nature, we become heirs of God and join heirs with Jesus in that same promise. So the oath that God gives in this matter is his eternal purpose enshrined in a promise surrounded by absolute intention that carries this dynamic, eternal focus. I am going to set you free if it kills me. Oh, but wait, it did, yeah? That Jesus died for your absolute freedom. And anything that takes that freedom away from us is devoutly to be avoided and resisted. We are not subject to the same rules and regulations that legalistic people were in the shadow of the Old Covenant. What you think about God is most vital. Legalism depicts God as distant, severe, joyless, and uninvolved in any tangible way. It even says in the most severe kinds of evangelicalism that God is not able to heal anybody anymore, that he doesn't talk to us about our future, and is not really interested in the substance of our life, so you better budget because you're on your own. That God is not that seriously involved with us. As long as we go to church and pay our tithe and do the best we can, that's the most that we can hope for. Which, to me, sounds like the doctrine of devils. Because you have to ask the question, who benefits from that stuff? Who benefits from powerless Christianity? Is God glorified in that? That apparently now he wrote a book and lost his voice, so he doesn't speak to us anymore. We have to read about it. Who benefits from that? Who benefits from the fact that Jesus healed, but now apparently he doesn't? Who benefits from that? Is the Lord glorified in that? Is he glorified in being portrayed as powerless? Does the world benefit because they can't get healed? Does the church benefit because we don't have any authority anymore? Who benefits? There's only one person who benefits, and that's the devil. He's glorified in our impotence. Hebrews 6:13 says that God promises by himself. And when he does that, what he's doing is he's promising himself. I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. What does that mean? If God is powerless to do anything, what's the importance of him hanging around? Seriously, you have to think through what are the consequences of everything that we believe. Where does believing that ultimately take me? When you believe that God, doesn't heal people anymore, It takes you into a place where he is not present for people. And that's not the gospel. There are two unchangeable things that when he utters this oath, he utters it by these two things. And one of them is that Jesus is our high priest. And the Latin for priest is pontifex, and it means a bridge builder between God and man. That's who Jesus is for us. Before Christ, the high priest could offer a sacrifice once a year, and that would keep a covenant, for a year. And then Jesus comes along and becomes the real bridge between God and us, and in himself keeps the covenant that we now actually live by. It's interesting, in Hebrews 7 and verse 12, it says this: when the priesthood is changed, of necessity there takes place a change of law also. So when Jesus became the high priest, not only did the priesthood change, but the law changed with it. So the old law and the old rules became irrelevant in Christ. Any rule outside the law of love is now inadequate to express who God is. What's interesting is that in the Old Testament, all the priests were from the tribe of Levi, but Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. So what's God doing there? He's saying that all the priestly line in Levi is deactivated in Christ. When the priesthood changes, the law changes. And the law was wiped out as a means of relating to God. Let me read you this in Hebrews 8:13. When he, that's Jesus, when he said a new covenant, he has made the first covenant obsolete. But whatever is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to disappear. Jesus makes the old covenant obsolete. This is what we're not saying. Nudge your neighbor and say, he's not saying this. I am not saying that the Old Testament is obsolete. I'm saying the Old Covenant is obsolete. And now the Old Testament has to be reinterpreted in the light of the New Testament. So you see that especially in terms of words of judgment. Because now that Jesus has been judged, that Calvary was a place of judgment on Christ for the sins of humanity. So now that we're in the new covenant, there is no place of judging mankind in this life. Between Calvary, which was one place of judgment, and on the judgment day when the world has been rolled up and stuffed in a closet somewhere, and we all stand before God, and when the world is over, there will be another day of judgment. So between those 2 days of judgment, there's no judgment for sin in this life. Because the question you have to ask is, was Jesus judged enough for sin? What do you think? Some of you are like, well, I'm not sure where this is going, so I'm not saying anything right now. Here's the issue. If Jesus was not judged 100% for sin, there's not a single one of us can be saved. Because your salvation is uncertain if he's not judged 100%. Because your salvation is determined on the fact that Jesus was 100% judged for sin. So did the Father pour out every last ounce of wrath and indignation upon Jesus for sin? So he hasn't got any left then. So that's the consequence of what we're talking about. He hasn't got any left. If he poured it all out on Jesus, then there is no place for the anger of God on mankind in this life. Now come a day that we'll all stand before the judgment seat of God, and those who never committed their life to Jesus, they're going to feel something that they won't like. But here's the issue. You can't have it both ways. You can't mix the old covenant with the new covenant. It doesn't make you safe. It makes you impotent. It curtails your freedom. It stops you. It puts this ceiling above your experience in terms of who God is for you and who you can be in him.